Today's discussion, we're going to speak on the role of the PTA Vice President. Most people think that the Vice President role only consists of things of sitting in when the President is not available, or if the President needs him to preside over a meeting if they are unable to attend that meeting. But there are many roles that the Vice President has, and it is a very important role. We're going to discuss your role in this presentation, as well as speak on committees. And I'm also going to go over an overview of project management. And that is basically what the Vice President does, is manage, is the manager over the committees. First of all, the local unit bylaws say in Article 7, Duties of Officers, Section 2, the Vice Presidents shall act as aides to the President, in their designated order perform the duties of the President in the President's absence or inability to serve, and perform such other duties as may be provided by in your bylaws, prescribed by the parliamentarian authority, or directed by the President, Board of Directors, or the Executive Committee. Okay, the role of the Vice President. The role of, first of all, if you all are not on mute, could you please mute your phones? I'm getting a little feedback. The role of the Vice President. The Vice President serves as the right hand to the President. Like I stated earlier, that your Vice Presidents preside at meetings in the absence of the President. When the President is not able to attend a meeting, or may be out due to illness or whatever, then the Vice President steps in to preside over the meeting. There may be times when there are other duties that the President cannot perform or be available. You would step in to act as the President at that time. At all times, most of the time, the Vice President is the assistant to the President. So whatever duties needs to be done where he or she may need help, the Vice President will be that person to step in and assist wherever that help is needed. The VP performs all other specific duties that may be provided for in your bylaws. So it is very important that you have a copy of your bylaws, and not just have a copy, but also read the bylaws. Get familiar with your bylaws, because the bylaws is your guiding document. It tells you what you can and cannot do. It tells you how many officers how many presidents, whether it's co-presidents or 2 VPs or what have you, your quorum, all of this stuff can be determined using your bylaws. You also need to, and it is very important, to attend training opportunities that's offered by the council, your district, and Georgia PTA. You can also go to National's website as well and look at some of their PTA universities or webinars and for training opportunities. But the more you get trained in various areas of PTA, the better it will help you to be that leader to guide your local unit. Oh, you are also considered the oversight officer. Like I stated before, we will be talking about committees. Specific committees can be assigned under the Vice President title. Now, in some of your bylaws, you may have titles for your vice presidents, but if you do, they will be stated in the bylaws. And some of the titles may consist of, for example, Vice President of Communications or Vice President of Programs, to delineate roles. So make certain that you look at your bylaws to see if any of the specifics regarding to VP is in there. Okay, committees, and more committees. This is what I was speaking of. When you set up your local unit or have your local unit meeting and you discuss what committees you are going to have, but the VP will be that person to manage the committees. Usually the president will assign, if she has two VPs, he or she has two VPs, they will break up the committees and assign them under the vice president. Sometimes if it's one president, one vice president, you may be assigned not all of the committees, but a portion of the committees, and that president may take the others and oversee those, or create a committee chair to do so. So when you're in your meetings, when you meet for the first time and you decide on what committees there are, this will be the time that the president, once they're identified, decide how those committees are going to be managed. Your role with committees. In most cases, the VP is either a major committee chair or has one or more committee chairs reporting to them. So what this is saying is that you may be the chair of all of the committees, or there will be committees that have their own chair, and the chair of that committee reports to you as vice president. So it could be two different ways. Either you'll be the committee chair of all committees and they report to you, or you'll be still serve as the manager, but the committee chair that's over the committees will report to you directly instead of you overseeing the whole committee, if that makes sense. I've already stated that the president should decide which ones the vice president will be responsible for. And you also have to make certain that all areas covered by you, you are aware of it and understand what you're being held responsible for. So whatever areas are assigned to you, make certain that you have a good understanding of what it is that is expected from you and what it all entails. Okay, project management introduction. We're going to talk about projects. What is a project? A project is a specific finite task to be accomplished. Example, committees like reflections, yearbook, membership. You can have your fall festivals, spring flings, fun runs, etc. Those are committees that have an event that goes on once during the year. So it has a certain time that it takes place, and these would be your project committees. Attributes of a project. You need a purpose. What is the purpose of it? We know what Reflections purpose is. That's a program that spotlights all of our arts, and it's one of National PTA's programs, so we know what that purpose serves. Then you need the life cycle. How long is it going to last? When does it happen? And the interdependencies, the uniqueness of the committee, any conflicts that you may have within the committee, and the policies. So you want to make certain that when you set up your committees, it is aligned with your PTA as well as your school. So most of the projects that we have, I'm sorry, committees that we have that are finite will be like I said, the reflections, membership. Membership is not really finite. It doesn't happen once a year. It should happen throughout the year. So you should continue to sell memberships to build your PTA. The more voices we have to advocate for our children, the better we are. So those are just some examples of the committees that will consider how projects. Why manage projects? When you establish your committees and you're planning, you need to focus on end objectives and how to achieve them. These are things that you sit down with your committee members and you strategize how you're going to perfect this committee or fund, whatever you're doing, whether it's reflections, fun run, or spring fling, fall festival. However, you need to start sitting down and thinking that through. You need to determine resources and tasks. So what is it that you're going to need, and how you're going to accomplish these tasks, and how you're going to divide up tasks amongst your committee members. You need to identify critical points, monitor during project execution. So when you're planning, your committees are planning their projects. You as vice president should remain in contact with the committee. If you're the committee chair, then you would be over the committee. But if you are serving as vice president and you have a committee chair for that committee, then you will have a conversation with the committee chair. So that committee chair will be reporting to you on how they're going with planning the event for this particular committee. Make certain that you communicate frequently, stay in touch, because the more you stay in touch and understand what's happening, it can alleviate any problems that you have down the road. Or if we see a hiccup coming, that will be your opportunity to try to correct it at that time. So just a thought, a note I put here, a project plan is no good if it's not written. So always write down, make certain that the committee that you're over, make certain that they're writing down their plan, how they expect to perfect it, how much money they may need, or how much they expect to make if it's a fundraiser. All of that needs to be in writing. Key variables for a project. There are 3 key variables: scope, time, and resources. Under scope, what end product encompasses? So when you're writing down and you're planning, you already know what you want to do. So whatever it is that you want done or want to happen would be the first thing that you need to write down. The quality of the end product, what you expect to make, how do you expect to achieve it, and hopefully everything will go as smoothly as possible so that you can have that quality end product. And what's included, what's included to get the end result. Time, you need to have a start date, an end date, duration, and critical dates. So these are all of the things you need to make certain that you're on top of. How does that committee should know when they're supposed to start, the end date, how long it's going to take them to get there, and any critical dates in between. There may be deadlines for getting contracts signed. The president signs the contract. That's the only signing officer is the president, unless the president is incapacitated or something, and then you would step in for the president and sign on behalf of the president. Resources. Resources is another thing, because anytime you're planning an event, you have to have people, which are your volunteers. We're talking about money, whether we have to spend money or make money. Either way, we need to know that. We need things, supplies that we would need to make this event go over. What's available versus what you need. That is also good to have. So I'm giving you all of this. I know you're probably saying, well, what does that have to do with me? As vice president, these are key things that can help you. It can help your PTA be strong, because you, as the vice president, will oversee the most important pieces of the PTA. Second to membership are committees, because our committees are those worker bees. Those are those committees work to make our PTA or your PTA local unit strong and achieve whatever you have planned to do. Steps in effective project management. Determine the purpose and objective. Make certain your committee chair has sat with her committee and determined what their purpose is and their objective. Determine the 3 key variables that I went over. Lay out steps to be performed. Assign responsibility and make financial plan. Sanity, check your sanity, because at some point we all have to be checked, because we get stressed or we get anxious, and we want to make certain that we keep cool, calm, and collected so that we can be respectful of everyone and work together as a team. Identify critical checkpoints. Hey, talk to your committee people. Say, hey, where are we? We're at April 12th. Our event is May 1st. How we're looking here? Are we close to wrapping everything up so we can roll out on the 1st? Just check and see where they are, what the needs are, or if they have any questions or concerns. Just stay in communication with your committee people. Document your plan. I'm going to get to and show you the most important thing that you can have and use is the Georgia PTA Plan of Work form that every committee chair in every committee, if you don't have a chair but you have a committee, then the VP, make certain you have a plan of work for that committee. You should require every committee to have a plan of work, because this is going to help you with all of this project management, and it's a checklist for you for where your committee is and it's going. Communicate your plan and get PTA and school approval. So make certain that it's approved through your PTA, your executive committee, board of directors, and also check in with your principal. Do not make plans to do something at that school without getting the approval from the principal. It's key to have communication and a good relationship with your principal of the school. Execute your plan, modify plan as appropriate, and evaluate and document end results. That is very key, because when you complete, have done everything with the committee, make certain that that committee chair gives you a report, a end report, and it should document everything from the beginning to the end. And this will be useful and helpful for the next committee person that steps in, and if they decide to do that event again, that will be a starting point or a guide for them. Document your plan of work, which I've spoken on. Typically document who, what, why, how, when, and what is needed. That's very key. Make certain all of that information is in that plan of work. You're going to outline your goals, your responsibilities, and the time required. You're going to estimate cost and revenue, facilities, and other resources that you use. That is very helpful to be in there. Any volunteers, the number of volunteers. Some events may not require as many volunteers as others. So having that information in there would be very helpful. And then talk about anything about how the administrator or teachers and your volunteers assisted. What did the administrator do? How many teachers were involved? So I always put that information into the report. Sponsor partner participation. Any sponsorships that you got, put that in there. Anybody partner with you to make this successful, put it in there. It is good information to have in your plan of work. Now, on the screen, you will see committee plan of work. This is in the leadership resource guide. This form is, or you can go to georgiapta.org and look under forms and get a copy. But I suggest that you make certain that you have this, and every committee chair has a copy of this form, and make it a requirement that it needs to be completed. It needs to be filled out, and they can fill out as much as they know, and then they'll fill out as they go. So this form is very, very helpful with planning your events at the school. This particular one shows you an example of how Silver City Elementary School PTA filled out their plan of work. And it tells, you can tailor this form to fit your school just as they did, and put in all the information here that would apply to you, because some of the things that they have in here may not be applicable to you. So just make certain that you look at the form, and then you can tailor it to fit your particular PTA. The event folder, the event report that I was speaking of is, here's an example of it. It shows you the event, the name of the event. It has the date, location, attendance, the coordinator, officers present, goals, execution, and then the notes. And in the notes, you can put down there any guidance that you may have to the next committee member. You can, I'm sorry, please mute your phones if you're not muted. Thank you. Down in the notes, this is where you give recommendations on things that you think could be done better, or you can put in there the challenges that you had. But whatever information that's pertinent for this particular event, put it there so that it will be helpful for the next time this event may be chaired by another chairperson, or even yourself. If you choose to return as the committee chair for the next year, it will be in there. But as vice president, this is what they should turn into you. Two things should be turned into you for you to check. One is the plan of work. And you should get that plan of work at the beginning. So when you, the committee chair is assigned to that committee chair's responsibility is to call a meeting and meet with her committee members. At that time, they would do their planning. They may not know everything, but as much as they know and as much as they get, it should be completed in that plan of work. When they complete it, and I suggest that the president and by VPs, you can let your presidents know, give them a deadline to get that plan of work back to them, because we also use the plan of work, it helps build the budget. So that whatever they're thinking they're going to need, or however much they think they're going to make, all of that needs to be in the plan of work. When that is completed, it needs to be turned in to the vice president. I suggest vice presidents look over the plan of work. If you have any questions at that time, go back to your committee chair and ask them to clarify or add to or take away. Whatever you think needs to be done, do it before it gets to the EC for it to be approved, because the plan of works have to be approved by the executive committee. So make certain when you get that plan of work, don't just collect it and take it back to your executive committee. Look at it, read it, see if it's anything that may throw up a red flag or you're not sure and you need clarity. Make certain that you have all of that information before it gets back to your executive committee. Now, at the end of that particular event, then you need to give them X amount of days to get in that event report. And then you collect the event report. And this will be documentation. One should be put in the binder for that committee, in that committee's binder. And then this event report, I suggest having one to the secretary and then one for the president to keep, or you keep in your binder. So there will be records. So when you're doing reports, this also helps when you're doing your reports for council, district, and Georgia PTA, any reports that you write. This kind of documentation can help you write your reports, and you don't have to start from scratch, but you already have collected information that will help with the reports. So vice presidents, keep that in mind, that if you do have a local unit that you have a committee that want to have do a report or submit a report, then they can use their event report as a start. Most of the information will be there, so they can just expound on what is already in the report. Okay, summary and recommendations. All committee chairs must submit a plan of work, as I said, for each project. The executive committee approves it. Require project documentation at the end, which will be the end report, and evaluate project success, failure, and what you would do differently the next time. So document, document, document. It's never too much documentation. The more you document, the better it is for the person that's coming in behind you, and also to help your PTA as a whole. Okay, I hope I tried to get through this without really speeding, but trying to give you as much information as what you as a vice president is responsible for. And hopefully I didn't go too fast so that you don't really, it wasn't clear, but I know we're on Zoom and I want to leave enough time for you to ask questions and I can answer them. So I'm going to ask Ty to help me with the questions that was gathered.
Okay, yes, Anita, we only had one question from Erica Campbell, and Erica's question was, who makes up the committee?
Who makes up the
Committee?
Okay. The committee is made up of, okay, first your president or your EC, when you get together and determine who your committees, what committees they're going to need for this year. They usually have sign-up sheets for people to sign up to serve on the committees of their choice. And then they either pick a chair or a volunteer step up to be the chair of that committee. So the members that consist of the committee will be the people that sign up to serve. Did I answer that for you, Erica?
Okay, so you're saying that what I was really wanting to know is, so you're saying they have to be a PTA member. So the parents that are PTA members and or volunteers, they can be on a committee.
Correct.
Okay.
They have to be a member. Yes, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
and Patricia Edie had a question. She would like to know, where do we get the plan of work or the work planner?
The plan of work is in the Leadership Resource Guide, Georgia PTA Leadership Resource Guide. And if you don't, you should have access to it. It's on our website. You can go to our website and go to georgiapta.org and look under, isn't it under Leadership Resources?
Yes, and PTA, you go to PTA support, and then under PTA support, you receive Leadership Resource Guide in addition to other forms.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So far, those are all the questions that we have right now, and we can go through and begin to select our 3 winners for $15 for the PTA Mart. So tonight, 3 lucky winners. We're kind of just drawing names out of the hat a little bit from the registration list. So 3 of you will be lucky enough to win $15 to shop at the PTA Mart. And all you have to do is contact our state office, and we will allow you to choose some items from that mart. And we'll probably just pick a few little swag bag for you. That's going to be according to your roles. Yes.
I want to ask one more time because we do have about 14 minutes left.
Okay.
I want to make certain that there aren't any other questions.
I had one more question, but I didn't think that it would pertain to this. I was going to ask, how do you suggest that we drive membership right now with everything going on? But I figured that would be more of like a member hub question.
Well, and that's a very good question. And we're in the midst of trying, we're coming up with, we've been meeting within our EC to come up with ways of different ideas of how we're going to, what it's going to look like for PTA, first of all, during the pandemic. Secondly, what I suggest is we need to really push the value of PTA. We need to tell our parents, push that what PTA really is. We're not just here to do fundraisers, bake sales, etc., school dances. We're supposed to be advocating for kids. Our purpose is to be that advocate for our children. And we need that now more than ever, because we sitting here going through a pandemic, and our children either are in school, not in school, virtual. There, it's all over the place. Our our school boards, our different school districts, nobody's on the same page. And I realize we've never been here before, and this is something that we're all learning. But we got to be, PTA has to get back to being the voice for our children and families. So I suggest push the value of PTA, how doing the part that we always say we advocate for children, and what we and how PTA serves in our schools. We assist our schools with getting those needs that they may not have in their budget. A lot of times we're getting calculators, computers, books. We're helping out that way. So make certain that our parents know we have to be in that school. We have to be a part, even though we don't be in there face to face or in person. We still fighting virtually outside. We still have a voice to fight for our school and to provide for our school. So that's what I think we can do right now until we get everything, until it settles down and we see which direction we're really going in. Because right now we don't really know.
And I put in the chat room, Anita, that the PTA during a pandemic workshop will be August the 11th at 7 p.m. if they would like to register. And then the membership workshops, August the 8th at 1 p.m. and August 10th at 7 p.m. They can register for those as well.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Does anyone else have a question?
Yes, you mentioned that we are, advocates for the children, and we need to make sure that we are in the school. So I guess my concern is, or my question is, well, what are we currently advocating for? The children are at home. So and that was one of the major conversations that we initially had when we were picking our leaders, was we don't know what the school year is going to look like. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what we're advocating for because we don't know what the children need this semester.
Well, advocating goes beyond what's in the school. There are bills and things that are coming out of the capital legislation that pertains to our children, cutting funding for education. There are so many different bills that pertains to our children, and that is where we really need to have our voices. We need to require and demand from our elected officials things from them to assist our children that will benefit our kids instead of taking away. So our alleged chair is charged with letting us know what bills are on the floor that pertains to education and our children. And when you're talking about not just funding, but when they're anytime they're talking about the bus lane bill and all of those different bills that comes out of there, that's where we need to have our voices. Do we agree with that? Do we support it? What do we demand? So the advocating for me is on a higher level than being right there in the school, because what happens down there at the state that's going to affect our educational system and our local elected officials as well, those are the people that we need to be really up in their faces and stay on top of. So that's what I mean when I'm saying advocating.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? Okay. Ty, we're at the probably 7-minute mark. So you want to go on and do the drawing?
Yes, okay. So let's see here. Oh, 1 second, I'm sorry. All right, as I draw, I have Tammy Endres. Did I pronounce that correctly? Tammy?
Tammy, I saw Tammy on. She's at Lassiter.
I'm here.
Hi, Tammy. Yes, if you will send me an email at TYE at Georgia spelled out PTA.org so we can discuss your gift.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Congratulations and thank you for joining the call tonight. And just to let everybody know, you all are winners. Let's pull the next name. I have Kelly Blake. I believe Kelly's on the call with us.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Kelly. You heard the email address is TYE at Georgia spelled out PTA.org to send me an email so we can discuss you redeeming your gift.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have one more. Juliana Radomiski. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Radomski. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations to all of you. And again, you all are winners. And if, again, that email address is TYE at Georgia spelled out PTA.org. And that has been noted in the chat. Thank you so very much. And Anita, that's all I have for today.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone, and I hope that I served you well. If not, you can always reach me at ahjones@georgiapta.org. Any questions you have, I will be more than happy to help you with those. So I want to say stay safe. Thank you again for stepping up to serve. And I'm sending good wishes to you and your local unit PTA. Good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.